My supervisor said, "We're reorganizing the territory," without looking directly at me. "Your position is being eliminated." In Marcus Reed's Veltric Optics office, I sat across from him and gazed at the letter of termination he had slipped over his desk. The ink on the $2 million contract I'd just secured wasn't even dry yet. I said, "I understand," in a composed tone despite the raging tempest inside of me. "Thank you for the opportunity." The largest commission check of my career was just stolen from me, Cassandra Doyle, a 36-year-old senior sales professional in Plano, Texas. I had spent 8 months doing everything I could to get Horizon Innovations as a client. I had customized innumerable presentation decks, sat through 43 rounds of negotiations, gone across the nation 12 times, and developed a connection with their CEO that went beyond business. Furthermore, Marcus had determined that my position was unnecessary 2 weeks prior to the payment of my commission. My coworkers were stealing looks at me as I crammed my desk, their faces displaying a mixture of sympathy and relief that they weren't in my position. At 4 p.m. on a Friday, when the majority of executives had already departed for weekend golf outings, Marcus had timed this just so. The best of the office politics playbook. Violet from accounting said, "I'm so sorry, Cassandra," as she walked past. "Everyone knows this isn't right." I kept my cool and grinned at her. "It's just business, right?" It was more than just business, though. It was intimate. The Horizon contract wasn't simply another client, it was my professional apex. After 15 years in the field, the commission would have wiped off my mother's medical costs from last year's emergency surgery. Marcus knew all this. We discussed it over drinks just last month, when he'd congratulated me on nearly closing the deal. Before leaving with my head held high, I took one final glance at the office where I had spent the previous 5 years of my life. When I looked at my phone in the elevator, I noticed a text from Horizon CEO Jonah Freeman. "Is Wednesday's dinner to commemorate the cooperation still planned?" My lips curled into a little grin. Marcus failed to see that business was more than simply statistics and contracts. It has to do with relationships. Furthermore, during the previous 8 months, Jonah and I had developed a foundation of trust and respect that went beyond our business dealings. He had told tales about his kids. I discussed my aspirations to one day launch my own consulting business. I made up my mind when I got to my car. This wasn't over. Not by a long stretch. I had been one of Veltric's best performers for 5 years. I had created my clientele from the ground up, transforming troubled accounts into lucrative ventures. I generated $4.3 million in new business only last year. The sales plaques and achievement awards gathering dust in a box in my trunk were testament to that. But Veltric had been changing. 3 months ago, Gregory Hansen took over as CEO, bringing Marcus Reed with him as the new vice president of sales. The whispers started immediately. They were restructuring to maximize shareholder value, corporate speak for cutting corners. I'd noticed the warning signs but dismissed them. The cancellation of the annual sales retreat, the new streamlined commission structure that somehow always calculated to less than before, the subtle pressure to hand over client relationships to the account management team. My closest colleague, Thomas, had warned me. "They're pushing out the old guard, Cass," he'd said over lunch. "Replacing experienced salespeople with fresh graduates they can pay half as much." I didn't believe it would happen to me. Not with my numbers. Not with the Horizon deal so close to closing. Growing up, my father always told me in business, loyalty goes both ways. He'd worked 30 years at the same company, climbing from the mailroom to management. But that world was gone. Today's corporate landscape rewarded the ruthless, people like Marcus, who viewed employees as expendable resources. As I drove home, I called my mother. I couldn't bring myself to tell her about being fired. Not yet. Not when I had promised to help with her medical bills. "How's my superstar?" she asked cheerfully. "Just fine, Mom," I lied, forcing brightness into my voice. "How are you feeling today?" "Better than yesterday. Worse than tomorrow," she quipped. It was her standard response since the surgery. After hanging up, I sat in my parked car, staring at my condominium building, trying to formulate a plan. My severance would cover expenses for 3 months. But without the commission, I'd need to dip into my savings for Mom's next payment. Unless I scrolled through my contacts until I found Jonah's number. Our weekly dinner had become a tradition during the negotiation process. He valued authenticity. It was what had drawn Horizon to Veltric in the first place, or more accurately to me. I hesitated for only a moment before pressing call. The line rang twice before Jonah's familiar voice answered. "Cassandra, I was just thinking about you. Still on for Wednesday?" "Absolutely," I replied. "But Jonah, there's something we need to discuss." Wednesday evening found me at La Cantera, an upscale restaurant in downtown Plano, where Jonah and I had celebrated the verbal agreement 2 weeks prior. I'd arrived early, selected a private corner table, and ordered a bottle of Jonah's favorite Cabernet. When he arrived, his smile faltered as he read my expression. "Something's wrong," he said, sitting down. I took a deep breath and laid out the facts. No emotional embellishments. No pleas for sympathy. Just the truth. I'd been terminated 2 weeks before my commission would have paid out on the deal I'd architected, from initial contact to signed contract. Jonah's face darkened. "That's contemptible." "It's just business." I repeated the phrase that had become my bitter mantra. "No." Jonah sat down his wine glass with deliberate care. "Business is about relationships and integrity. Without those, it's just theft wearing a suit." Coming from the CEO of a $500 million technology company, the words carried weight. "What will you do?" he asked. "I've received an offer from Crystalline Systems," I said, referring to one of Veltric's main competitors. "They've been trying to recruit me for years." Jonah nodded slowly, his analytical mind working through the implications. "And our contract with Veltric has a 14-day rescission clause," I said. "We reviewed it together, if you recall. Either party can withdraw without penalty within 2 weeks. I wasn't asking him to cancel. I would never explicitly ask that of him. The decision had to be his based on his own business judgment. Jonah stared at me for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. "Harold," he said to his legal counsel, "pull the Veltric contract. I want to invoke the rescission clause first thing tomorrow." He paused, listening. "Yes, I'm certain. And clear my morning schedule for a call with their leadership." After hanging up, he looked at. "This isn't just about your commission," I said. "Cassandra, during our negotiations, you promised that you personally would oversee the implementation. That was a material factor in our decision." I nodded, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "Crystalline's product line is actually better suited for your needs," I said truthfully. "The optical components have a longer warranty, and their custom design team is more experienced with your specific applications." "When can you start?" Jonah asked. "Monday. They're eager to have me on board." "Good." Jonah raised his glass. "Then I look forward to hearing their proposal next week." As we finished dinner, discussing his daughter's college applications and my mother's improving health, I felt no triumph, no vindictive pleasure, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that in a world where loyalty was increasingly rare, integrity still mattered to some. By the time the check arrived, the first phase of my response to Marcus' betrayal was in motion. Not revenge. The following morning, my phone began ringing at 7 a.m. "Marcus." I sent it to voicemail. He called again and again. By the 4th call, I decided to answer. "Cassandra," he sounded breathless, panicked. "We need to talk about what?" "Marcus, my position was eliminated. Remember?" I kept my voice pleasant, as if discussing the weather. "Horizon just canceled their contract. Jonah Freeman personally called Gregory and pulled out of the deal." His voice tightened. "Did you have anything to do with this?" "How could I? I don't work for Veltrix anymore." "Listen," his tone shifted to conciliatory. "There's been a misunderstanding. We want to bring you back. Same position, better compensation package. The territory reorganization has been postponed." I almost laughed at the transparency of it. That's a generous offer, Marcus, but I've already accepted a position with Crystalline Systems. I start Monday. The silence on the other end was deafening. Crystalline? You can't do that. Your non-compete doesn't apply when I've been terminated without cause. I finished for him. Page 4, paragraph 3 of my employment contract. I reviewed it with my attorney yesterday. Another long pause. What did you tell Freeman? The truth. That I was terminated shortly after securing his business. Damn it, Cassandra. The mask of professionalism slipped. Do you have any idea what you've done? The board is going ballistic. This was a cornerstone deal for the quarter. It sounds stressful, I said, feeling a strange sense of calm. I should let you go so you can handle that situation. Best of luck, Marcus. As I ended the call, I received a text from Violet. Office is chaos. Gregory called an emergency meeting. Marcus looks like he's about to explode. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to Crystalline's headquarters for an early meeting with their executive team. The gleaming glass building stood in stark contrast to Veltrix's aging office park. Inside, I was greeted by Eleanor Walsh, the CEO, who had been courting me for years. Welcome to the team, Cassandra, she said, her handshake firm. We're thrilled to have you. Thank you for the opportunity, I replied, the words carrying more sincerity than when I'd said them to Marcus. Eleanor led me to a conference room where the executive team waited. Cassandra's joining us from Veltrix, she announced, and she's already creating waves. Horizon Innovations canceled their contract with Veltrix this morning. The executives exchanged glances. Now, Eleanor continued, we have a narrow window of opportunity here. Cassandra has a relationship with Horizon's CEO. We need to move quickly to present our solution before their procurement team looks at other options. I cleared my throat. I've tentatively scheduled a meeting with Jonah next Wednesday. He's expecting our proposal. Eleanor's smile widened. Perfect. Let's make sure it's irresistible. For the next 3 days, I worked with Crystalline's product team to create a custom package for Horizon. Unlike Veltrix's one-size-fits-all approach, we tailored every aspect to their specific needs. The pricing structure I proposed was actually lower than Veltrix's, with better terms and stronger guarantees. This could be a $2.5 million deal, noted the finance director after reviewing my numbers, with expansion potential to $4 million within 2 years. I added, by Monday afternoon, my phone had accumulated 8 voicemails from Marcus and 3 from Gregory, each more desperate than the last. The final one came just as I was leaving Crystalline's office. Cassandra, this is Gregory Hansen. Whatever Crystalline is paying you, we'll beat it. Name your price. We need you back. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, weren't worth rebuilding. Wednesday arrived with unexpected tension. Despite my confidence in Crystalline's superior offering, years in sales had taught me that nothing was certain until contracts were signed. As our team prepared to leave for the meeting with Horizon, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. It's Thomas, used Violet's phone. Urgent. Marcus is meeting with Jonah right now, offering a 30% discount plus free implementation. My stomach dropped. Marcus was making a desperate counter move. I showed the message to Eleanor. Can we head over now? I asked. I think we may need to get ahead of this. Eleanor nodded grimly, and we left immediately. Upon arriving at Horizon's headquarters, the receptionist informed us that Jonah was in a meeting but had left instructions to send us to conference room B. When we arrived, walking through the familiar hallways felt surreal, like returning to a place I'd only dreamed about. When we entered the conference room, I stopped short. Sitting at the table was not only Jonah, but Marcus, looking smug, and Gregory, who seemed surprised by our entrance. Cassandra, Jonah stood, smiling warmly. Perfect timing. These gentlemen from Veltrix were just explaining why I should reconsider my cancellation. Marcus' expression shifted from confidence to discomfort as I introduced Eleanor and the Crystalline team. We were under the impression we had an exclusive meeting, Gregory said, his tone clipped. I invited both parties, Jonah replied evenly. I believe in making informed decisions. What followed was the most unusual presentation of my career. Marcus outlined Veltrix's desperate concessions, price cuts, extended warranties, free training, while I presented Crystalline's thoughtful, customized solution. Throughout it all, Jonah watched, asking occasional questions, but giving no indication of his preference. When both presentations concluded, Jonah thanked everyone. This has been enlightening. I'll need to confer with my team before making a decision. Outside the building, Marcus cornered me in the parking lot. You won't get away with this, he hissed. You have no idea what you're up against. I'm up against a man who fired me to avoid paying my commission, I replied calmly. I think I understand the situation perfectly. His face reddened. It wasn't personal. It was a business decision. And this is my business decision. I gestured toward Horizon's building. May the best solution win. Back at Crystalline, Eleanor was surprisingly upbeat. You did well in there. Freeman was clearly more engaged during your presentation. He's thorough, I cautioned. He won't make a decision based on personalities. 2 agonizing days passed, then on Friday afternoon, my phone rang with Jonah's number. We've made our decision, he said. Without preamble, can you come to my office at 4 p.m.? The drive to Horizon felt like traversing a minefield. Had Marcus' desperation tactics worked? Had the substantial price cut swayed Jonah's procurement team? When I arrived, I was escorted directly to Jonahs' office. To my surprise, no one from Veltrix was present, just Jonah and his team. Cassandra, he greeted me. I want you to explain to our team exactly how Crystalline's optical sensors will integrate with our existing systems. For the next hour, I detailed the implementation process, answering technical questions from Horizon's engineers. When we finished, Jonah stood and extended his hand. We'll go with Crystalline. The contract is being drawn up as we speak. Relief washed over me, followed quickly by professional composure. You won't regret it. The product truly is superior. I know, he said, but equally important is working with people of integrity. 1 month later, I sat in my new corner office at Crystalline, reviewing the finalized contract with Horizon. The deal had indeed come in at $2.5 million, with a clear path to expansion. My commission would be considerably larger than what I would have earned at Veltrix, with a more favorable payment structure. Violet had texted me updates. In the aftermath, Marcus had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into his management practices. 3 other sales executives had resigned in solidarity with my situation. Veltrix's stock had dropped 11% following the loss of the Horizon deal and subsequent departures. But the most satisfying development came that morning in the form of an email from Harold, Horizon's legal counsel. He'd forwarded me an internal message from Jonah to his executive team. Our decision to partner with Crystalline over Veltrix wasn't just about pricing or product specifications. It was about aligning ourselves with a company that demonstrates the values we espouse. When Veltrix terminated Ms. Doyle immediately after she secured our business, explicitly to avoid paying her commission, they revealed their true corporate character. Such short-sighted greed doesn't align with our long-term partnership goals. Crystalline, by contrast, recognized talent and integrity and moved decisively to acquire it. That's the kind of business instinct we respect. I printed the email and pinned it to my wall not as a trophy, but as a reminder of what truly mattered in business. Eleanor stopped by my office that afternoon. I just got off the phone with Bedford Industries. Apparently, their procurement officer heard about how we acquired the Horizon contract and wants to discuss moving their business to us. I raised an eyebrow. Bedford? They've been with Veltrix for years. 7 years, she confirmed. Worth about $1.8 million annually. They're concerned about stability and leadership over there. Word was spreading. What Marcus had done to me wasn't just an isolated incident of corporate callousness. It was becoming a cautionary tale in our industry. That evening, as I was preparing to leave, my assistant forwarded a voicemail from Gregory Hansen. Cassandra, this is Gregory. I want you to know that Marcus Reed no longer works at Veltrix. His actions were not authorized by me or the board. We'd still like to discuss your potential return. Please call me. I deleted the message without a second thought. My new office had a view of the downtown skyline. My team was skilled and motivated. My compensation package included equity in a growing company that valued relationships over quarterly numbers. More importantly, I'd received a call from my mother's doctor that morning. The latest tests showed significant improvement. With my new financial situation, I'd been able to move her to a better specialist, one not covered by her insurance. As I drove home, I reflected on the past 5 weeks. I hadn't sought revenge when Marcus betrayed me. I'd simply ensured that consequences found him through his own actions. I hadn't torn down Veltrix. They'd undermined themselves by prioritizing short-term gains over sustainable relationships. My phone buzzed with a text from Jonah. Implementation team says everything's ahead of schedule. Dinner next week to celebrate? Absolutely, I replied. First round's on me. My father's words about loyalty going both ways echoed in my mind. While the corporate world had changed since his time, some principles remained eternal: integrity, relationships, and the understanding that how you treated people always came back to you in the end. Marcus had taught me a valuable lesson, though not the one he intended. In business, as in life, your reputation wasn't built on what you said, but on what you did, especially when you thought no one was watching. 6 months after joining Crystalline, I stood at a podium accepting the Sales Executive of the Year award at the annual industry conference. Looking out at the audience, I spotted several familiar faces from Veltrix, including Gregory, who offered a tight smile when our eyes met. My acceptance speech was brief and focused on the importance of business ethics and relationship building. I didn't mention Veltrix or the circumstances that led to my departure. I didn't need to. Everyone in the room knew the story. Success in sales isn't just about closing deals, I concluded. It's about creating true partnerships where both sides win. When we forget that, we're no longer sales professionals. We're just transaction processors. The applause was gratifying, but what happened afterward was even more so. A steady stream of industry colleagues approached me, some to offer congratulations, others seeking advice, and a few quietly inquiring about opportunities at Crystalline. Bedford Industries had indeed moved their business to us, followed by 2 other major Veltrix clients. Our company's market share had grown 15%, while Veltrix's had declined by almost 20%. Later, Jonah located me in the reception. "Congratulations," he murmured, touching his glass to mine. "Well deserved." "Thank you for taking a chance on Crystalline," I said. "How's the implementation going?" "Ahead of schedule and under budget," he stated. "Your team is exceptional." I concurred. "They are, and so is yours." Before another colleague called him away, we had a quick conversation about upcoming projects. I was watching him go when Eleanor came over. She showed me her iPad and said, "Have you seen this?" According to the headline, Veltrix Optics announces layoffs amid continuing market struggles. According to the story, the board chairman took over as interim CEO when Gregory Hansen resigned. The news didn't make me happy. Instead, it made me feel inevitable. As I got closer to the care facility where my mother now resided, the fall breeze tossed leaves on the path. She got a private room at the top rehabilitation facility in Plano, with daily physical therapy and state-of-the-art therapies because of my improved financial circumstances. She smiled as I walked in, putting down the book she had been reading. "There's my girl," she said. She was still able to advise me through life's obstacles with her warm smile and keen humor at the age of 68. "How's the new medication working?" I took the chair next to her bed and inquired. "The doctor says I'm responding better than expected," she responded. "I might be able to move back to my own place by Christmas." "Mom, that's fantastic. Are you still dominating the business world, my corporate warrior?" I gave her an update on the latest events while grinning. At Crystalline, I was elevated to the position of Vice President of Strategic Accounts, overseeing a group of 12 salespeople. Due to the success of the Horizon implementation, the contract was extended to include 2 more divisions, increasing the total value to $3.8 million. Looking with longing, she asked, "You know what your father would say about all this?" "Success is best when it's earned honestly," I cited. She gave a nod. "Cassandra, he would be really proud of you. Not only for what you've accomplished, but also for how you've done it." I drove to a nearby coffee shop after leaving the facility, where I had made plans to meet Thomas. He had been interviewing with a number of firms since leaving Veltrix a month earlier. He exclaimed, "I've got good news," as soon as I took a seat. I accepted an offer from Meridian Technologies. "Well done. Sales role." "Sales director," he said, grinning uncontrollably. 15% higher base than Veltrix, better commission structure. "Sincerely, they're lucky to have you," I remarked. "I almost called Marcus to thank him," Thomas jokingly said. "Being associated with Veltrix these days is like having a golden ticket to the competition." I periodically reflected about Marcus and the lesson he had unintentionally given me while I developed my new team and career at Crystalline. Ultimately, how we treat other people affects not only their destiny, but also our own. I didn't destroy him as retaliation. It was an achieving in spite of his attempt to minimize my role. Seeing my own rise instead of witnessing his decline was the best validation.